My cheeks burned, not from the dim chandelier light, but from the sting of humiliation as laughter erupted around the table, my own family's laughter, sharp and unrelenting. In that moment, I was 12 again, the awkward kid who'd lost her mom and gained a void that no one could fill. But tonight, at 25, facing my dad's new wife across the polished mahogany, I realized some voids were meant to be bridged with fire, not forgotten. And as her smug grin widened, I knew my one line would shatter the illusion she'd built. It all started 6 months ago when Dad announced his engagement to Vanessa over a rushed phone call. "She's amazing, kiddo," he'd said, his voice laced with that boyish excitement I hadn't heard since Mom was alive. I was happy for him, or tried to be. Mom had passed from cancer when I was 10, leaving a gaping hole in our lives. Dad threw himself into work, and I navigated adolescence with a revolving door of babysitters and therapists. We survived, but we didn't thrive. Vanessa, with her glossy blonde hair and designer wardrobe, seemed like the fresh start he deserved, or so I thought. I met her for the first time at their engagement party, a lavish affair at a vineyard outside town. She was all smiles and air kisses, cooing over my adorable career as a freelance writer. "Quaint," she'd said, her eyes scanning the room for someone more important. I brushed it off as nerves. But as the wedding approached, the cracks showed. She'd rearranged Mom's old photos in the house, claiming they cluttered the vibe. Dad would nod along, his eyes distant, like he was afraid to rock the boat. I bit my tongue for his sake, but each visit felt like walking into a stranger's home. The wedding was a whirlwind of white lace and champagne toasts. Vanessa glowed like a movie star, and Dad looked 10 years younger. My half-brother Alex, from Dad's brief fling after Mom died, he was 19 now and as brooding as ever, stood beside me, muttering under his breath about how plastic she seemed. Our extended family was there. Aunt Linda with her booming laugh, Uncle Greg always cracking jokes, and cousins who treated every gathering like a reunion special. They all adored Vanessa, or at least her ability to throw a party. I smiled through it, raising my glass to their future, even as a knot twisted in my gut. Fast forward to tonight, the post-honeymoon family dinner at Dad's house, our house, once upon a time. Vanessa had insisted on hosting, transforming the dining room into something out of a lifestyle magazine. Crystal glasses sparkled under the lights, and the air smelled of rosemary roasted lamb and her signature perfume, heavy and floral. I arrived early, hoping for some alone time with Dad, but Vanessa intercepted me at the door, her hug too tight, her whisper too pointed. "So glad you could make it, Emily. I know how busy you are with your ... little stories." I forced a smile. "Wouldn't miss it, Vanessa." She preferred Ness, but I couldn't bring myself to shorten it. It felt too intimate, like conceding territory. The family trickled in. Aunt Linda with her famous apple pie, Uncle Greg with bottles of wine, Alex slouching in late with earbuds dangling from his neck. Dad beamed as he carved the meat, Vanessa fluttering around him like a devoted wife. We settled into seats, the conversation flowing easily at first honeymoon tales from Bali, beach sunsets, and infinity pools. I listened, nodding along until Vanessa turned her gaze on me. "So, Emily," she said, sipping her Chardonnay with a practiced elegance, "your dad tells me you're still single at your age? That's brave." She laughed lightly, as if it were a joke, but her eyes gleamed with something sharper. I blinked, caught off guard. "I am focusing on my career right now," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. The table murmured agreements, but Vanessa wasn't done. "Oh, come on, sweetie, you're what, 25? I had my first modeling contract at 18, married by 22. Especially for girls who spend their days typing away in coffee shops." She waved a manicured hand dismissively. "It's cute, really. Like a hobby." The words landed like a slap. My little stories had paid my rent for 3 years, landed me features in national magazines. But in her mouth, it sounded trivial and significant. Dad chuckled awkwardly, avoiding my eyes. Aunt Linda tittered, Uncle Greg guffawed, and even Alex smirked, though I saw the unease in his glance. The laughter swelled, a chorus that isolated me in its echo. My throat tightened, memories flooding back. Mom's funeral, where I'd stood silent as relatives whispered about how strong I was. Strong meant silent, I learned, but not tonight. I set down my fork, the clatter cutting through the mirth. The room quieted, eyes turning to me. Vanessa's smile faltered just a fraction, sensing the shift. "You know, Vanessa," I said, my voice steady but laced with the emotion I'd bottled for months. "It's funny you mention hobbies." Because from where I'm sitting, marrying a widower twice your age seems like the ultimate one. The table froze. Dad's knife hovered mid-slice. Aunt Linda's mouth formed a perfect Uncle Greg's laugh died in his throat. Alex's eyes widened, a flicker of admiration crossing his face. Vanessa's face drained of color, her perfect facade cracking. "Excuse me?" She sputtered, her voice pitching higher. I leaned forward, the words pouring out now, fueled by years of unspoken grief. "You waltz in here, erase my mom's memory from the walls, mock my life like it's some joke. But let's be real, you're not here for love. You're here for the house, the security, the status. Dad's your meal ticket and we're just the inconvenient baggage." My heart pounded, but I didn't stop. I've watched him grieve for 15 years, Vanessa. He deserves real happiness, not a trophy wife who belittles his daughter to feel superior. The silence was deafening. Dad's face crumpled, a mix of shock and dawning realization. "Emily ... double quotes," he started, but I held up a hand. "No, Dad, I've held back for you. But this?" I gestured to the table, the remnants of the meal now cold. "This isn't family. Family doesn't laugh at each other's pain." Vanessa stood abruptly, her chair scraping back. "How dare you? I love your father, do you?" I interrupted, my voice softening but firm. "Or do you love what he provides? Because if it's love, you build us up, not tear us down." Tears pricked my eyes, but they weren't from sadness, they were from release. The room hung in suspense, the air thick with unspoken truths. Aunt Linda cleared her throat. "Emily's got a point, Ness. That was out of line." Uncle Greg nodded slowly. "Yeah, kiddos, right? We shouldn't have left." Alex, ever the quiet one, spoke up. "I've seen it too, Dad. She's changed everything. Mom's stuff is gone." Dad looked between us, his eyes misty. Vanessa's composure shattered. She fled to the kitchen, sobs echoing behind her. He followed, but not before squeezing my shoulder. "I'm sorry, I didn't see it." The rest of the evening blurred. Apologies, tense conversations, Vanessa's tearful defense that crumbled under scrutiny. It turned out she'd been pressuring Dad to cut me out of his will, calling me ungrateful. Alex had overheard it weeks ago, but stayed silent, afraid to stir trouble. By dessert, the family rallied around me, sharing stories of Mom that Vanessa had tried to suppress. Dad confronted her privately. And though they didn't divorce that night, the power dynamic shifted. She apologized begrudgingly and promised change. Whether it stuck, time would tell. As I drove home, the city lights blurring through my windshield, I felt lighter. That one line hadn't just silenced the laughter. It had reclaimed my voice, my place in the family. Grief doesn't vanish, but it evolves. And sometimes speaking truth is the strongest hook to pull yourself and those you love back from the edge. In the weeks that followed, things mended slowly. Dad and I started therapy together, unpacking the years we tiptoed around moss. Vanessa toned down our barbs, though the chill between us lingered. Alex and I grew closer, bonding over late-night talks about Mom. The family dinners resumed, but with boundaries. No mockery, no erasure. I even published a story about it anonymized, of course titled "The Dinner That Broke the Silence." It went viral, readers sharing their own tales of blended family strife. Turns out my little hobby had power after all. Looking back, that clattering fork was my starting gun. Humiliation can break you, or it can forge you. I chose the latter. And in the end, one line didn't just end the laughter, it started the healing. Word count,